Xbox, and more Xbox. Also, Amazon Luna. All this and more on Wumpa Time. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Wumpa Time. My name is Canadian Guy, and I'm joined by my favorite co-host, Shemp.
Hi, hello everyone, and might I say, I think it's all in my head, but I think you always get the easiest intros. I think you always get the intros that are just one word over and over, and then I get the ones that have like multiple sentences.
I wing a lot of things. I'm just like, hey, let's improv this. This should be fun.
Cool, Xbox. All right, anyways.
Xbox. Yeah, moving on. But before we get into talking a bunch of Xbox this week, and don't worry, it's not all just, sometimes are known for ragging on Xbox a bit. It's a mixture this week. I mean, everybody's
it's a mix.
Everybody but Nintendo is getting, kind of sprayed this week. So, but before we get to the unspraying, let's talk about Among Us. So Among Us has been...
Oh, yes.
If you guys haven't heard yet, Among Us is this game that has sprung up on Steam that literally came out quite like years ago and almost had a very small little player base. It was fine, cool little game, and it was just a little indie game. And all of a sudden, it's exploded. It's like...
Yeah, it all because of YouTubers and streamers. This game came out in 2018.
Yeah.
And like barely anyone knew about it.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, Twitch streamers and YouTubers started playing this left and right, and everyone started playing this.
Yeah, it just took off. And now the company that is running it, they were originally going to make a sequel for Among Us 2. But they decided to cancel Among Us 2. Now, that you might be wondering, why would they cancel Among Us 2? That doesn't make any sense. If their game is already being successful, wouldn't you want to make a sequel? Well, they decided that they are going to, in favor, create just more DLC, or maybe not DLC, just more content in general for the current Among Us right now. So they're just going to build off of that.
And they said that, so essentially what they said is that they're going to take all of the content that they planned for Among Us 2 and then pop it into Among Us 1, but it's going to be, it's not going to be easy as copy and pasting. What they said is that it's going to be hard for them because they have to dive deep into the inner code of the first game to like the core code just to rework. They have to rework a bunch of parts of the base game in order to get the new stuff working for the updated game. So imagine like I guess you could compare it to like No Man's Sky, like launch and then post-launch, like all the content before. It's essentially a different game, so it's like that, but not bad. And see, I didn't know this, but a fun fact, the Among Us developers, Innersloth, I had no idea that they did the Henry Stickmin collection, the little Stickman games where you click and you have a bunch of different like endings and stuff.
Oh yeah,
like essentially, okay. The one where you like break out of jail and it's like, oh, I have a teleporter or a shrink ray. What do I use? I had no idea that was them. Yeah, but that's cool. No. But Among Us is going to be getting a bunch of content, and I'm really excited for that.
Now let me tell you something. I was honestly kind of doubting this game. I thought it was another fad. I thought it was another Baldi's Basics. I thought it was another FNAF or whatever. And then
to be fair, I understand.
Yeah, because usually that's how it goes with these games. And I would have thought the same thing for Fall Guys too, if it wasn't for the fact that I went and played it before anybody really knew much about it at PAX. But when I saw Among Us, and I was a little bit confused at first, but I decided it was $5. Like, the game is $5. So
yeah, it's $5, and then it's free on mobile.
Right.
So I mean, anyone can play this.
Yeah. So I paid $5 for it. I tried it, and honestly, after the first two rounds where I was just running around in circles, not knowing what I was doing, once I figured out the game, and once I figured out how to be an imposter, and I figured out how to be, it's actually a lot of fun.
Yes, it's very addictive, and we I think it was last week where every night after work we would come home and be like, hey, me and my friends would be like, hey, we playing? And then me and my fiance would be like, yeah, we're playing. So we just, it's just been like a kind of a ritual over here.
It's a lot of fun, and it as long as the game does require you to lie if you are the imposter to each other. You have to talk to each other and communicate with each other. You kind of have to lie a bit. There's a bit of deception, but as long as you're, because I think this is a prerequisite, is that sometimes the whole point is that you have to find out who the imposter was or finish your tasks. And if you eject somebody who is the imposter, you win. If you don't eject but you sometimes have the possibility of ejecting someone who's not an imposter. And people can get salty if they're not the imposter and they get thrown out. So you have to be able to make sure that you're with a good group of friends and not get into arguments because man, the game can get confusing.
Speaking of confusing, I'm glad you said that. I was waiting to say that. But speaking of confusing, Sony. Just Sony. You know, we rag on Xbox for like we're gonna get into something that made Xbox did that's very confusing, but Sony did something that's just doesn't make sense. It's kind of frustrating because they're just making it more complicated than it needs to be. So we know the PS5 is backwards compatible with PS4 games. Said Sony stated that I think last week that the PS5 is at 99% backwards compatibility with the PS4, which is pretty good.
That's pretty dang good. Yeah.
So, you know, you get your PS4 game, you pop it in, and some games will have like PS5 enhancements.
Right.
So, for example, if you play Uncharted 4, let's say theoretically, there's a PS5 enhancement if you pop in your PS4 version where you get 4K, 120 frames, yada, 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 sometimes better textures. Like what the One X does to original Xbox games, it's what the PS5 could do to PS4 games.
Right.
Instead of every game getting a re-release, again, you just give out some patches.
Right.
So what they're doing with the original Spider-Man makes no sense. So there's two versions of Spider-Man Miles Morales. There's the base edition, which is $49.99, and there's the Ultimate Edition, which is $69.99, which comes out on both PS4 and PS5.
Right.
Not the Ultimate Edition, just the regular edition.
Right.
So if you get the Ultimate Edition of Miles on the PS5, you get Spider-Man Remastered for the PS5. And this is a complete rework. This is a different version of PS4 Spider-Man. To not get confused, I'm just going to call PS4 Spider-Man Peter Parker and then PS5 Miles, just to make sure we differentiate that from everyone.
Yep.
So basically, the only way to get Peter Parker Remastered is to buy the Ultimate Edition of Miles. You cannot buy the remaster by itself, and you cannot get any of the remastered upgrades through backwards compatibility. If you pop in the PS4 game into your PS5, you just get to play the PS4 game in its PS4 Pro mode.
Right.
And that's it. If you buy... Oh my God, my brain. If you buy the digital version of Miles for $50, you can upgrade for $20 to get the Ultimate Edition, which in turn gives you Peter Parker Remastered.
Right.
But that's the only way to get it. You cannot purchase it.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So there's, it is unnecessarily confusing. And the worst part is that if they just made one small change, it would fix everything.
I like just either release it or make it a patch for PS4 Spider-Man or Peter.
Well, here's the question. This is the question: is that okay? Is the question becomes this: is Miles Morales is coming out for the PlayStation 4, right?
Yes.
So, if you buy that version, you don't get the PlayStation 5 upgrade. Fair enough. It makes sense that the remaster is not on the PlayStation 4. That let's get that straight. It makes sense. You can't remaster a game on the same system. Right, exactly. No, I get that. That's hands down easy. And in fact, I would argue that it is consumer friendly to include Spider-Man with Miles Morales for people who haven't caught up yet. That is consumer friendly, and that Sony's getting check boxes, getting checks across the board. I think that and then on top of that, it is a remastered version, not just a boost mode version. It's a remastered version, 4K textures, 60 frames. It's new models, new this, new that. It's going to look great, and you know what? I'm super stoked super psyched and stoked about it. But where they lose me is the fact that you have to buy a version of Miles Morales specifically for the PlayStation 5, which fine, in order to access the game.
Yeah, and this contradicts what every other third-party publisher has done, where you buy one version of the game, you get the next-gen version.
Right.
It's super easy. Even as complicated as 2K and EA make it, you still get it. With this, it doesn't really make sense because you have the old version and you can play it on the new console, but why can't I get the enhancements if it's the same game? Because from what I understand, the remaster is just the Game of the Year edition with the DLC, but with, like you said, better models, better graphics, better everything. By the way, ray tracing. Can I just say the game already looked amazing, and now it's gonna have ray tracing.
Mm-hmm. But I agree with you. But here's where the problem is that I understand that with the whole boost mode. But the thing is that, like, I understand what they're doing is that they're replacing models. That's what they are doing. They're not just doing like an up-res, like as a patch. They're literally making new models and stuff like that for Spider-Man, Peter Parker, for the PlayStation 5 remaster. I understand in not releasing I understand most of the aspects of this. What I don't understand is why can't I if I bought a PlayStation 5, let's say, I buy a PlayStation 5, I look at Miles Morales, and I'm like, you know what? I'm interested, but I didn't play the first game. Let me try the first game first. In order to be able to try that game, you have to buy Miles Morales. What if you don't like the first game? You're stuck with two games that you don't like. If you, right, you're just stuck. You're like, well, in order for me to experience this, so you can turn around and say, okay, well then go get the PlayStation 4 version, and that will work. Yes, that will work, but it's not going to work for the next gen, right? It's not going to work at the same capability of the Spider-Man Peter Parker remaster that they're releasing with Miles Morales. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't make sense because they turn around and say, hey, if you buy the base version of Miles Morales for the PlayStation 5, you can pay $20 and get the Spider-Man remaster. Cool. I'm thumbs up for that. Collector's edition comes with the Spider-Man remaster. Thumbs up to that. Why couldn't I just buy the Spider-Man remastered version for my PlayStation 5 on its own for $30?
Yeah, that's what other things will do for PS4. Like, you get the regular game and then you upgrade to the Ultimate Edition, which is what Miles is doing, but you can't do that with base PS4. So the best graph that I see is it feels like I'm about to open my third eye when I read this. So basically, Miles on PS4, you can get Miles PS5 for free. You get the PS4 version, you get the PS5 version for free. That's it. Mm-hmm. If you buy the $70 Miles Ultimate Edition for PS5, you get Spider-Man Remastered PS5. Or if you buy Miles for PS4 plus the $20 upgrade to make it Ultimate, you get Miles on PS5 plus Spider-Man PS5. If you get Spider-Man PS4, you can play PS4 on PS5 with backwards compatibility. My head hurts.
Yeah. You see, this is where things are getting confusing. This is where things are getting whack, all over the place, because this is our first time we're actually starting to re-implement backwards compatibility, because we kind of had a generation where we didn't have that clear as crystal as before. Like before, PlayStation 1 to PlayStation 2, it was easy. It was clear as day. Yeah. No issues, no problems, nothing at all. But then we went to the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360, and things started to get dicey. And then to the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, things got even more dicey. Then Xbox started to implement we will tell you what games are backwards compatible because we gotta have to release patches to be able to make it function and work. And so backwards compatible, yes-ish. And then we're going back to this generation, and it's like, okay, we got backwards compatibility again, except this time we have almost 2 generations of consoles of new structure in terms of how we run our games and how we make our games that is interfering with this. Because the idea of these 8K or 4K remasters wasn't a thing back then. It really wasn't. It wasn't like, hey, these are the same things with the graphical upgrades and stuff like that, but you also can access it from a previous gen. That was never a thing.
No.
So this is where things are getting definitely confusing. Like I said, if they turned around and just said, hey, you can buy the Spider-Man PlayStation 4 because the PlayStation 5, because people were there was an argument, not an argument, I would say a debate, where people were like, I said, there's a problem here where what if people just want to play the original Spider-Man. They said then they would have to pick up Miles Morales. And I said, but what if they don't want to pick up Miles Morales? What if they just want to play, they pick up their PlayStation 5, they look at Miles Morales, and they're like, I don't know if I'm going to like this game, and I don't want to spend the extra money. I want to play the previous Spider-Man. I also want to know what the story is. And then you say, okay, well, the only way to experience that would be to pop in the PlayStation 4 version, but it's not going to look as good.
Yeah, like I'm not using my new console to its fullest potential.
Exactly.
I could have just if I bought this PS5 for this game, then I might as well have just saved money and bought the PS4 just to play this PS4 game.
And I remember someone saying, well, why don't you just buy the Miles Morales version? Why not? And I'm like, because you might not like it. That's the thing. Is like, wouldn't it suck that you paid in Canada? It's $89. Okay, you paid $89 for 2 games you don't like. Right. So it's like, do you see what I mean? It's like, why? That it's if they left it purely digital. If they're like, hey, you can only buy this game digitally, the Spider-Man PS5 the Spider-Man PS4, Spider-Man Peter Parker. There's so many things.
There you go. Yeah.
Spider-Man Peter Parker. You can buy that digitally for $39.99, $29.99, whatever. But if you bought the Miles Morales, you get a discount to upgrade to it or whatever, or you get it for free with the Miles Morales. So people can turn around and say, okay, I don't know if I'm into Miles Morales, but I'll pay the $30 to get the regular edition. And they're like, oh my gosh, I really like this. I'll go pick up the Miles Morales version. And guess what happened? They lost $10 overall, and Sony gained $10 overall, because the other deal is if you buy Miles Morales, the base version, and pay $20, you get the original version, right? But then someone could pay the $30 and say, you know what? I don't dig it. Guess what? They're not burning that extra money. So it's more consumer friendly. And if people will like the game, which 9 times out of 10, most people do enjoy the Spider-Man game, they're going to go pick up Miles Morales, and Sony makes an extra $10. So I don't understand where I don't understand where there's a problem here. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, no, they're just making everything. They're making everything as complicated as possible, and it doesn't make any sense. Speaking of making sense, I hope you can make sense of this, because I don't really know much about this.
Yeah,
so you're going to be able to take the lead on this one.
So, Crash Bandicoot 4. By the time you guys hear this, is going to be mere days away, less than a week than the game that we have. We've been waiting 12 years for, and even longer if you were thinking about in terms of canon between Crash Bandicoot Warped and after Crash Bandicoot Warped. Even though Wrath of Cortex that's a whole rabbit hole that I made a video about, where we talk about what's canon, what's not canon, and I got more videos talking about that later on, because there's a whole bunch that we got to discuss. But the point is that Crash Bandicoot 4 has coming with multiplayer. Now, that was something that came out of left field, kind of. I reported a video about this not too long ago, where we looked at the PlayStation Store and the Xbox Store, where it said how many players could play the game, and it said 2 to 4. So we knew that there was couch multiplayer, but there wasn't any online. So there was a bunch of speculation that it was going to be Crash Bash. There was speculation it was going to be like there were going to be co-op levels like Crash the Titans, or Mind Over Mutant, I guess it would be, et cetera, et cetera. There was all of these speculations, and it turned out that it was announced it's called Bandicoot Battle. Now, there are technically 3 game modes. There is checkpoint co-op, and how it works is it's very simple. You sit down with up to 4 people on a couch with 1 controller. You play the game up to the checkpoint. You hit it. The game stops. It says, okay, pass the controller to the next person. You pass it to the next person, and then they continue from where you left off to the next checkpoint, and going round robin until the level is complete.
Oh, so it's just like a hot potato, but with Crash.
Yeah, so that's the co-op. Then there is competitive co-op, where there is, I'm forgetting the names right now, but basically one is a time trial. And how it works is that you have to race to the first checkpoint. So you run to the checkpoint, and there are crates that you hit to freeze your time, right? So you're going through. When you get to the checkpoint, it stops and says, okay, pass the controller to the next person. You hand it to them, and then they go. And the first person that went, their ghost is saved. And you have to race against the ghost. Whoever gets to the first checkpoint gets 1 point. It's like, okay, so who won? That person, okay, you get a point. Then you pass the controller back to the other person, and then you go again from the first checkpoint that you hit all the way to the next checkpoint until you win. Whoever has the most points by the end of the game wins the round. So that is that one. And then there's the box breaking, where it's the same thing, checkpoint to checkpoint, exact same concept, except instead of trying to get there as quick as possible, you have to hit crates within a certain succession. And if you time breaking the crates together a certain way, it gains a multiplier. If you die, the round ends where that right there, and how many points you collect, whoever has the most points by the end wins. So it is very much like couch hot potato.
Yeah, okay, that's what I thought. So this is separate from the Crash PvP game that we heard about like a couple months ago, right?
This is apparently separate. I still don't know what to make heads or tails of that Crash PvP game. I still don't understand that. And I have a video actually going really in depth about this. But just to kind of talk a little bit about it now, is that if the same leak that said there's a Crash PvP game coming also said that there's going to be a new Crash mobile game coming out there's going to be another Crash mobile game, but this mobile game isn't even out yet. The one Crash on the Run.
Yeah, so you think this is like either they leaked like plans, so I'm thinking like if this is all real, Crash 4 comes out a little later, Crash mobile game comes out later, Spyro gets announced, Spyro comes out, maybe a Spyro mobile game, not even, maybe just some Spyro stuff, and then the other Crash mobile game gets announced, and then maybe this Crash PvP mode gets added to Crash 4. I don't see it being a separate game.
I have no idea how this is going to work. I do have a full breakdown of how it's all like kind of working out, because there is I don't want to get too much involved into it, but there's a lot of things that need to be looked at and decided upon, because the dates that they said was that the next Crash mobile game and the Crash PvP game, they're saying that the Crash PvP game and the Crash mobile game was originally slated for 2021. And that's where I'm confused. Okay. And they also said that the PvP game was apparently supposed to be coming to mobile as well. So technically 2 mobile games. One, the Crash of the Run, and then the next PvP game is also going to have a mobile port. But
I'm wondering if this is a free-to-play Crash game.
Right, but who would develop it, right? There's a whole bunch of questions here. The only thing that I could think of is that we now have that Activision Shanghai studio, which is now working on Crash 4.
Okay, you saw that too. Okay, so I'm wondering if this is going to be like Activision's response to Mario Kart Tour, where instead of making a CTR for mobile, they make a CTR that's cross-platform with console and mobile, so they can just have something. But I don't know about kart racing on mobile because it's never really worked. So unless it's like some sort of Crash Mario Party clone, but multi-platform, I don't know. There's a lot here. There's a lot here that needs to be broken down. There's a lot that needs to be talked about, and I do have a video talking about that. I have it scripted and everything. We'll probably release it after Crash 4 is out and go from there. Also, while we're still on Crash, did you see the video that I sent you? Have you seen that yet?
Yes. I do want to make a topic about that actually.
Okay, yeah, I wanted to briefly bring that up. Well, let's pretend like we don't know about it. Hey, Canadian guy, you know a Big Red Button, right?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. So for those of you who don't know, Big Red Button was a company, or still is a company, that's made up of former Naughty Dog employees and High Rise Studio employees and Ready at Dawn Studios developers, like a bunch of really talented work. Unfortunately, they're known as the Sonic Boom Rise of Lyric developers because to give them credit, they were making a pretty decent looking game, and then Sega did the whole put it on Wii U, but we're like a third fit put it on Wii U. Okay, so that's what happened with that. So basically, while we're on the topic of Crash, Big Red Button apparently had a when did they upload this? They uploaded this like last month, I think, or a couple months ago. So they uploaded a Crash Bandicoot proof of concept video where they Oh, wow. It was produced by a 12-man Big Red Button cell during 8 days of prototyping. So 12 people did this in 8 days, which is pretty impressive. So essentially what happened is they remade a small chunk of the first Crash Bandicoot level in the Crytek engine, because that's what they were using for Sonic Boom. And they remade everything from scratch, even Crash's model, which looks pretty cool. And they did all the animations. They have like a really nice squash and stretch. It's got nice bloom, nice flopping animations and everything. The jump is very cartoonish and everything. It looks really good. And they presented this to Activision. And interesting is, yeah, you know who Bob Raffay and Eric Iwasaki, I think?
Yeah, I've heard of them.
Yeah, they were a part of they're part of the original Crash Bandicoot dev team, and they're on Big Red Button, and they helped to develop this prototype.
Now, it's a very basic prototype, nothing fancy, nothing amazing, but it was literally like, hey, what if, if we took the original Crash Bandicoot, almost like Insane Trilogy, and they did it in the Crytek engine, and for a prototype, it was definitely interesting, and the game was called, it was prototype Crash and Burn.
Yeah, Crash and Burn.
Crash and Burn, and obviously, I guess Activision said no, because this was a prototype back in, 2014?
Yeah, 2014 is when they say. So, yeah, 2014, and they put a quick demo for Activision. It looks like Activision turned it down, I guess because they didn't want to either contract a third party or Sonic Boom ruined the reputation. Wait, when did Sonic Boom come out?
Well,
Rise of Lyric.
There's a lot of questions here. There's a lot of debate here because when they announced Crash Bandicoot, it was 2016. Or was it? No, it was 2015 going into 2016, right? I'm trying to remember.
Crash Insane announcement. Let me see. Because I just looked up. Okay, so Sonic Boom was 2014 as well.
Okay, so because there's two things, there's two dates here that you have to remember. There's Sean Layden coming out and just announcing it is happening, and then there's the launch trailer.
Yeah, so the E3 reveal was 2016, whenever they announced Crash Bandicoot and they had the Skylanders Crash Shadow walking.
Right, yeah.
That was 2016.
Okay.
So this was developed
2 years before that was announced.
Yeah, so this was developed during the production of Sonic Boom. So this was before any of that happened. So it's interesting that they shut them down. I'm wondering if it's because either Activision was already in talks with Sony. I don't know if they've been talking like 2 years prior. I think it was like a year prior. No. I think two. I think two is really good.
Yeah, two is probably about the probably like in talks of like, okay, let's be talking. And or maybe there was like a big Sony was kind of not Sony themselves, but like Sony was in talks with Activision, and Activision was maybe looking at just pawning it off to a third party, right?
Yeah, and it looks like Big Red Button maybe presented this, and they're like, "Oh, that's pretty cool, but we already have our internal team working on a Crash project, so we'll have to turn it down."
Well, maybe the because you have to think, maybe the Activision heads came together. They're like, "Okay, let's pawn it off to a third party," and then they got this is probably not the only pitch. I could almost promise you there is going to be other. If my theory is correct that they were originally going to do a third party, that there is other pitches from other studios out there. And then what probably happened was that they probably sat down and were like, okay, we got all these pitches from all these different third parties that want to do this. And basically what would happen is that Activision would pocket the money from Sony and then just pay the third party whatever to make the game. But they probably figured that they would make more money if they made it internally. And then they're like, okay, what studio could run it? And then they found Vicarious Visions to be able to run it. Does that make sense?
Okay, so you think that makes more sense because you're saying that you think Activision called out for third parties instead of Big Red Button just coming to them with this.
Yeah, no.
That makes sense, and it makes more sense because I'm looking at the Crash and Burn logo, and behind it is the number 20 for the 20th anniversary.
Right,
I assume.
Right.
So that's really interesting. And for everyone else who doesn't know, Big Red Button after Sonic Boom, they went on to do work on God of War 3 Remastered. They helped out with that on PS4, and they're doing a Arc Slinger, I think. So like they're not dead; they're still doing stuff. But yeah, it's interesting that Activision shut down a company with the original Crash devs on a Crash game.
Well, for them, it's all about numbers. It's all numbers. It's
all about numbers.
When you're at a massive corporate company that size, it's all numbers. That's it. It's. I don't blame them. It's straight numbers, and they're like, hey, we could probably do this better internally with not maybe necessarily do it better, but we could probably do it cheaper internally with one of our studios. Because maybe there was, because you have to understand is that there are projects that are in development for years and then they just get shut down. They just get blown to bits. The best example is the Sony Santa Monica. Before God of War, they were working on this big sci-fi game. God of War was supposed to be the kind of like the swan song, one of the last game to come out on PlayStation 4 around God of War originally, but then the project that they were working on just got canceled, and because I watched the whole documentary on this, and basically they had the sci-fi game, and Cory Barlog was supposed to start producing a game, was doing like the back ends of the game of God of War, and what was going to happen was as each team member finished their work on that sci-fi game, they would get recycled into Cory's team, and so it was going to be a slow build. But then when that project died, Cory wasn't even ready yet. And they're like, okay, God of War is now in full swing. He's like, what? And he had no idea what to do.
Yeah, I remember that.
So stuff like this happens all the time. So what probably happened was that there was a void in Vicarious Visions project line. They're like, hey, this project fell through, whatever project that was. It could have been anything. And they're like, hey, this project fell through. Why don't we just do it internally and just fill that with Crash Bandicoot? And they said, okay. Yeah. And there it was, done, right? And they went ahead and did that, and I mean the Crash, it was insane because the Crash sales were absolutely crazy. Speaking of sales, woo!
Oh yeah,
segue.
Let's get into this. So you use Amazon, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Me too. So, you know what Amazon was like? They were like, hey, Let's do that Google thing, just for fun. Let's just do that fun Google thing. That Google thing is our favorite piñata, Stadia. I like Stadia. You like Stadia?
I love talking about Stadia.
I love talking about Stadia.
I love being the death with our opinion stick.
So essentially what's going on is Amazon announced Amazon Luna, and what Luna is it's exactly Stadia. The only thing that I heard about it is that it launched with Sonic Mania, and that's it. Mm-hmm. Or it's going to launch with Sonic Mania and a couple other things, but the only notable thing is Sonic Mania.
Well, they did say 100+ games, but we don't know what games those are.
Yeah, we don't know what they are.
We have no idea what those games are. Okay, so I'm noticing a pattern here. Is that I feel like there's these like multi-bajillion zillion dollar companies that just say, hey, let's get into the video game market. And they're like, I'll just buy a controller, order a generic controller from China and just slap it to a streaming service. Because if you look at Google Stadia, if you look at even the Xbox, if you look at the, is it Luna? Yeah, Luna. And if you look at
Luna.
And if you look at the Nintendo Switch Pro controller, they all look the same. It's all the same.
They're all the same thing.
It's the same
because if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Right, but it's like black, generic with accented color triggers. Like, oh my goodness, I understand that. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. But at the same token of time, it looks exactly the same. They all look identical. Can we please get some uniqueness? Because I understand that we're going into the streaming service, and I understand that Stadia wants to be like the first, and now Amazon wants a slice of the pie. But we don't even have a reliable internet infrastructure yet. We don't.
No, nothing for this. No,
not for this. And I do like the price. They said $4.99 a month. I do like that price. But at the same token of time, it's the same thing. People are not going to jump ship for Google Stadia yet. It's not, the infrastructure is not set up yet. There's no reason. There's no benefit. There is no benefit. Now, if Amazon turned around and said it's $4.99 a month and that's it, and then you can play hundreds of games and you don't have to pay for them, now you're talking.
Now we're getting somewhere.
Now we're getting somewhere. But if it's the same thing, which I don't know, where you have to buy your own bloody games, again, that aren't even yours.
Yeah, that's just so stupid, dude.
It is so dumb, and it is so stupid that we don't know much more about it. But picture Google Stadia. It's the same thing. It's just purple now.
Yeah, it's stupid. This is probably the weakest thing of the news lineup. I just think we needed to bring it up before people start asking us about it. It's the same thing, and I don't have any high expectations for it.
Nope.
If it closes, it closes. That's great, but other than that, done. It's just there we go.
Yeah, but now, speaking of Amazon sales, segue.
Oh, hello, sales.
Here we go. So, hey, Shem, do you remember the podcast that we had, or the many podcasts and the many opinions that we've said over and over again that you could probably quote us 100 times about Xbox's naming and how awful it is, and whoever came up with the names for the consoles should be fired? You remember those conversations?
Yes. Oh, yes. I remember those fantastic conversations.
So, here's the deal. So, the Xbox Series X and S have launched, and it was just as much of a crap show as the PlayStation 5 was. Everyone thought that because they pre-planned the date of when everything would go on sale, it would be fine, everything would be great. No, it was awful. It was just as bad as the PlayStation 5 sales.
Yep.
It was, especially for online, because everyone had bots ready to just clear everyone's carts and just buy the console and put it on eBay, already set up and ready to go. So the Xbox, it's ridiculous. But there was an interesting thing that people noticed. So remember how we said over and over and over and over again that parents are going to get confused because there's the Xbox Series X and the Xbox One X.
Yep. And then they're going to be like, well, there's the 1S, so how's it different than the 1X? And there's the Series X, so I think that's the same thing. And then there's the Series S next to the 1S, so I think they're all the same thing. I think they're just like a different name for them.
Yeah. So, no, but it was confusing. And we all said, this is going to be confusing for grandparents. This is going to be confusing for parents, even kids. Well,
this is going to be confusing for the general consumer, which is going to be people who aren't like you and me, who are so well versed in video games that we can tell.
Exactly. The thing is that, you ready for this? The Xbox One X. So the One X, the current One X. The sales on the same day that the Series X went live went up over 700%.
To give you an exact number, it was 747%.
747%.
That's a lot of not Series X. I'm just going to tell you right now. That's not a lot of what people wanted.
No. That is, why would you? But now there are some people who are trying to say, oh, well, people probably thought, the Series X is sold out. Well, I might as well buy the 4K machine and it's perfectly fine. I understand it's current gen. No.
No. They thought it was the Series X.
They thought it's the Series X.
Oh, man. Now, to be fair, given what Xbox is doing, if you get the One X and you buy all the current Xbox games that just say Xbox, yeah, you can play them on the Xbox One because I don't know. I don't even think Xbox knows.
But here's the thing, though, is that's not what little Timmy wants. Little Timmy
wants the Series X.
The Series X, right? Or the boyfriend wants the Series X, or the girlfriend wants the Series X, and the boyfriend, the other girlfriend might be like, I don't know gaming, but I want to make my spouse or my significant other happy, so I'm just gonna buy that one for their birthday or Christmas. There we go.
It's got the Xbox and it's got the X in it.
It's got the Xbox. It's got the X in it. That's it. There it is, right there. The Xbox X, right? And that fantastic. 10 out of 10. It was terrible. It was awful, and it's up by 700% now, up over 700%. Now imagine this. Imagine getting this thing, and if you're getting it for Christmas, you wrap it up. And you're like, okay, it's got a 30-day warranty, but that's okay because this is Timmy's Christmas gift.
This is what Timmy wants.
He opens it up and he's like, I already have one of these.
What do you mean? This is the new one?
Yeah,
no, grandma, it's not.
Right. And you just spent $300-$400 on something that your kid already has or doesn't want, or spouse, or whomever. And the warranty is up because you got like 30 days to return it.
30 days, yeah. And like we've said this before, you don't get that with the PlayStation.
No.
It's like, well, he has the 4, so I guess the new one's the 5, and that's it.
Done.
With Nintendo, yeah, people have said really done. Y'all got that Wii Switch? Y'all got that new Wii Switch?
Yeah.
And I'm sorry. One more time.
One more time. But the thing is that the exact same thing happened though with them. Look at the Wii U. Same thing.
Oh, yep. Same thing. People just thought it was another Wii.
And then guess what? The new 3DS. Same thing.
Same thing. Now, the only thing I can flack Sony for is I cannot tell you how many calls I get at work when people call and they ask, "Y'all got that PSP Vita?" And I'll always respond with, "We have both."
Yeah, exactly.
Which one do you want?
Exactly. Yeah, but they made a mistake on that too, but they corrected it, right? Xbox did not. They did not correct it.
They rolled with it.
They just rolled with it. And the thing is that, but at the end of the day, though, the thing is that Xbox just earned a bunch of money for old tech, and they're laughing about it. Like,
yeah, they're like, "Oh, cool, we just made a profit on something we didn't even put effort into."
Exactly. Our sales went up 700%. And that's it. And the thing is that the Xbox isn't to blame. What are you talking about? Xbox is to blame. They're not to blame at all. They
named it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, they named it. They're definitely they named it. Yeah, they're to blame for that. But what I mean is that they're not to blame for someone buying it. Like, okay.
Oh yeah.
That's why I meant. It's like they're like, oh yeah, you bought it, whatever. You're stupid. Ha 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 ha. You can't
stupid.
You can't tell the difference between a 1X and a Series X. Ha 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 ha.
And, they look so different. Ha ha ha.
Yeah, why didn't you look at the images? Ha ha ha. Right. And the worst part is that in the grand scheme of things, they are right. It's not their fault. Mm-hmm. But man, you look at them and you're like, wow, this is not good. Like everyone can see the problem. So
yeah, and when I saw that, I could not. I legitimately didn't believe it. I thought it was a
joke.
Like what's that? Yeah, what's that website? That's like the Onion for games. It's like Hard Drive or something.
Yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, I thought it was one of those articles.
Yeah, no,
but no. It turns out it was like from The Verge, and I was like, oh, this isn't a joke. This actually happened, and wow, I called it. We all called it, and it exactly what we said happened.
Yeah.
Now, let's pump the brakes. Let's give Xbox a break. Okay, they just made a big purchase. They need us to pat them on the back and tell them that it's okay.
Ooh, that big purchase.
Yes. So Xbox. Recently, their big purchase for Microsoft too is they bought Bethesda. They bought the entirety of Bethesda. For how much was it? 30 or 71 billion?
No, it was 7.5 billion.
7.5 billion,
which is the second biggest transaction in gaming history.
Yeah, that's more than what they bought Mahjong for.
Yeah,
they bought
Minecraft.
That studio for 2.5 billion, specifically for Minecraft, because that's all they did. Bethesda bought id Tech, which owns Doom and Wolfenstein and stuff like that. So not only do they have Bethesda's IPs, they now have id Tech's IPs, which are also Bethesda's IPs. So let's name off a few. Skyrim. Just Skyrim, if you pay for Game Pass, you'll be paying for Skyrim every month, so the cycle will never end.
Fallout,
and like all Elder Scrolls, all Fallout, all Doom, all Wolfenstein, the new Deathloop, Star, whatever that space
Control
one is that they're doing, Star Control,
or Starlink, Star. I can't remember.
No, it's Starlink's the toy one.
Okay, then I guess Star whatever. Then you got Prey.
Yeah, you got Prey.
The Evil Among Us.
You got Prey. the Evil Among Us. I'm trying to look at their games. There's Rage 2. Can I just look at their games, please? Brink. Oh no, Microsoft has Brink now. What are we gonna do?
Now here's the thing: we're ragging on Xbox for not having enough exclusives. In doing that purchase alone, they now have a full catalog of exclusives.
Yeah,
no problem.
Now here's the thing though, they're not. Absolutely none. I guarantee, like hand on my heart, guarantee none of these are going to be Xbox exclusives, because when Xbox bought Double Fine Productions, they specified that all of the projects they were working on that were multi-platform are going to stay multi-platform, and any future projects that they want to do multi-platform will also be multi-platform.
Right.
That's why you have games like Psychonauts 2, which is coming out on everything.
Right.
You have their own exclusives, which are like Ori and the Blind Forest, which are on PC and Switch. Ori and the Will of the Wisp is on PC and Switch as well as Xbox. Then we have the Halo Master Chief Collection, which is on PC. And then we have Cuphead, which is on everything, including PlayStation 4. Mm-hmm. A lot of these Xbox games aren't on the Xbox. Right. And I do not believe for a second that Doom, any Elder Scrolls, any Evil Within 3, nothing that Bethesda has will be an Xbox exclusive.
But it could be a timed exclusive.
It could just be like maybe for a month, a month, and you get Fallout 77.
Yeah, but that's enough. That's enough, dude. Even a 1 month exclusive, there are going to be people that are going to be like, no, I want this game now, right? Because Fallout has that following. Yeah. Elder Scrolls has that following, where people are like, I don't care. I am playing this game right now. And what they can do is that they can literally gut the other versions to just have like, oh yeah, the best way to play is the Xbox version. Like, yeah, okay. They could turn around and say, yeah, DLC for all Elder Scrolls on the Xbox is free. All the other consoles you have to pay for them.
That'd be really scummy, but I could see that happen.
Absolutely. Why not? Why not? They will make it so it's like, yeah, it goes to multi-platform, but we are going to make these games, because these games are not small. Now, let me rewind a little bit, and I understand the points that you made with Ori and with Cuphead and stuff like that. Great games, great IPs. None of them hold a candle to the size of Elder Scrolls. None of them.
No. Well, would you argue that Halo does?
Halo does, but it went to the PC.
PC,
which is still a Microsoft product. You notice they're not handing it off to PlayStation or Nintendo. Right?
No, exactly.
Right? So, and PC, because it's a Microsoft product to another Microsoft product. If Microsoft makes money, it's Xbox earns Microsoft money. If I go and I buy a computer with Microsoft, with my Microsoft operating system, Microsoft makes money. So it's Microsoft helping Microsoft make Microsoft money. Right? So it doesn't matter. It going to PC is fine because of the fact that, hey, it's Microsoft making Microsoft money. But if you turn around and you even make any of these, even a partial exclusive, even for a month, if it's for a year, if it's for 6 months, whatever, you are going to sell systems like crazy. You will sell, because these fans, there are YouTube channels that dedicate their entire subscriber base to one game. One. Like Skyrim, like Elder Scrolls, like Fallout. These games are dedicated. These have such massive followings. And the scariest part is they have enough content to make content for years to come. Years to come with one of these games. One. Right? So when they turn around and say, hey, Fallout is got a 6 months exclusive on 6 month exclusive on Xbox consoles, I bet you hand over my heart that's going to sell consoles like hotcakes.
Oh yeah. And like Xbox, I don't think. You know what? No. Xbox doesn't even need it. Xbox has been doing their own thing. They have their own. They've been pushing Game Pass super hard, and like they're doing what they're accomplishing, which is getting the Xbox name everywhere.
Right.
Like since I'm a Discord partner, I got 3 months of Game Pass for free on PC, and I was like, okay, cool. So I had to download the Xbox app onto my Windows 10 PC in order to play these games. And it's like, oh, I don't own an Xbox anymore, but I'm playing Xbox games.
Right.
So, like you said, that's all that matters. Now, buying Bethesda was just completely out of nowhere. Like I don't think anyone at all could have seen this coming.
No.
And I don't know. This is super weird, but I want to get into the even more weird stuff because right after Xbox bought Bethesda, people immediately looked at Sony and they're like, "Oh, what are you gonna buy?" And there are rumors that they were gonna buy Konami, which I don't really think so, because I don't think Sony wants that name, because Konami hasn't had the best rep the past couple years. And then when those rumors were coming up, the rumors that Xbox were gonna buy Sega popped up again, and I say again because these popped up like months ago, but they're coming back full force now. Xbox, I need to preface that Xbox has never done well in Japan. No. For Xbox One's sake. I have a chart right here that has the 2018 sales in Japan, and it's really sad. So the PlayStation 4 in Japan in 2018 estimated sales were 1.6 million with a total sale of 7 million. The 3DS 2018 sales 566,000, 24 million. The PS Vita in 2018 in Japan sold 181,000 units for a total of 5 million units. Almost 6 million. You want to know how many Xbox Ones, 1S and 1X and original models were sold in 2018 in Japan?
What?
15,000.
Ugh.
With an estimated total sale of 102,000. Dude, the Vita made like 15 times what Microsoft did in Japan.
Yep.
That's bad.
That is very
bad. And when
bad.
the Series X and Series S pre-orders opened in Japan, no one cared.
Yeah.
Now, what happened with these Sega rumors is, for one, that we saw, I don't think it was a year ago, that we saw Phantasy Star Online 2 is going to be an Xbox exclusive,
Right.
which kind of came out of nowhere.
Right.
And the Xbox Series X, right now, the only current gen game that the Xbox Series X is launching with is the Yakuza Like a Dragon game, which, to be fair, came out a year ago in Japan on PS4. For whatever, but it's coming with the Sega game as a launch title, which is pretty good. There have been some really funny tinfoil hat conspiracy theories about Microsoft buying a Sega, and I got a kick out. I don't know if you saw them, but I got a huge kick out of them. So
I didn't.
The first one I want to go over. You're gonna love this.
Okay.
So the first one that I saw that I want to go over is Microsoft announced a blue and white Xbox Series S and Series X controller. Yeah, so they announced that controller, and it's already up for sale. It's $64.99 or something like that, and it looks really cool. And they tweeted it out saying same design. No, what was it? It was like classic design, still iconic. So someone zoomed in on that. They underlined the S in still and the onic in iconic, and they were like, oh, Sonic! Oh my god, it makes sense! Yes, and then it gets better. This one's my favorite one, because so the next one is Sega of Japan's Twitter account. I don't know the context. I didn't read the translation, but they uploaded this picture of this woman bowing down, making an X with her arms in front of a cardboard box, and people were like, "Oh my god, it's Xbox!" So people were like, "Wow, it makes sense. It's gotta be. That's the only thing it can make." Now, tinfoil hat conspiracies aside, it makes sense. If Xbox were to acquire Sega, this would be their big market into Japan, because Sega is a huge name in Japan. As Sega doesn't really, I'm sorry, Sonic isn't really huge in Japan, but Sega is.
Right.
Every arcade you go to in Japan most likely is a Sega arcade.
Right.
Even the main one that shut down recently, it was really sad, but there were still a bunch of other Sega arcades.
Yeah.
Sega's massive. I'd say it's bigger than like Konami, Capcom, any of the other third-party publishers. Sega's huge. So if Microsoft bought Sega and Sega becomes an Xbox name, that in turn just spreads Xbox to basically all of Japan,
Right.
and makes it kind of a household name unofficially.
Right. There's also another take on this too. So it infiltrates Xbox finally into the Japanese market. But another thing is, if when you think of take a step back and think of the North American market for a second, right? When you see a general consumer, when someone thinks Sega, what's the first thing they think?
Sorry, you cut out. What was that?
When someone thinks Sega in North America, what's the first thing they think as a general consumer?
It's just Sonic. You think Sega, you think Sonic.
Exactly. So imagine this. Xbox just bought Bethesda, which holds a catalog of very mature games. These games are very mature. Doom, Elder Scrolls, these are very mature games. And the one thing that Xbox is currently lacking are games that cater to a younger audience. PlayStation actually still has some of these games. They still have Sackboy, even Ratchet and Clank, right? Even
Ratchet and Clank, you can argue Spider-Man, you can argue right. even older IPs that they still have, like iPet and stuff like that.
Now, if they buy Sega and Sonic becomes a Xbox exclusive, they now have
that would be huge.
That would be not only disgusting, but that would be so big. That would be, and the thing is too, to add on to that, Nintendo and Microsoft have a very good relationship with each other.
That's the thing. That's what I was going to bring up, because I always thought it was the opposite, because Sega and Sony were always buddy-buddy.
Right.
Every time, like, Persona is still a PlayStation forward IP,
right,
even though it's Sega. And the spin-off games are multi-platform. The only Persona game that's been on an Xbox console was the spin-off fighting game for Persona 4.
Right.
Even Yakuza. All the Yakuza games have been like PlayStation console exclusives.
Right.
And then only recently have they been put on PC and then randomly thrown on Xbox, like just without announcement or warning or anything. They were just thrown on Xbox.
Right.
And I always saw them as a PlayStation forward company. Like they love Sony and the PS4 ecosystem.
But listen, you show enough money, and man, you'll jump allegiances. Now, of course, this is all theory. But
this is all theory.
This is all theory. This is all up in the air. This is all throwing darts at a board. We're not saying this is fact. But if Xbox buys Bethesda and they buy Sega and they put any form of exclusivity to their consoles of these games, I think that there is, unless they don't screw up, they have a very, very, very big major shot as to winning this generation overall, where what will probably happen is that you will buy PlayStation for their exclusive games that they have that you're interested in, and then everything else would be on Xbox. If they do that and they play their cards right, but Microsoft is going to be spending egregious amounts of money. I mean, the only other biggest purchase was when Tencent, because of course Tencent, the Chinese mega gaming company, bought Clash of Clans, or the company that owned Clash of Clans, for like $8.3 billion.
Good Lord, that's more than what Microsoft paid for Bethesda.
Right, but the thing is that Tencent is disgustingly massive. They are gross. Right. And Microsoft has competition, a little bit of competition, but they do have competition. Tencent doesn't. Tencent has no competition in China. There's none. There's absolutely no competition. And
can I just say, I know how it works, but I always love to think that when it's like, oh, Microsoft bought out Bethesda for $7 billion. So it's like, I always imagine Microsoft gives Bethesda $7 billion, they own the company, and in turn absorb that $7 billion again.
Kind of.
Yeah, like when I know it's not exactly like that, but when I think about it, it's like, was there really a transaction?
Yeah, well, I mean, I suppose.
Also, here's the Xbox picture that I wanted to send you.
Oh gosh, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So Speaking of ridiculous, let's get to the Xbox expandable storage.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that one.
This will be the last topic before we go. So, Xbox announced their brand new expandable storage thing. Now, we kind of talked about this already, but we got a confirmation 100%, both American and Canadian, because I got the Canadian on my side and it's going to make you have a stroke. So, we got the confirmation that the affordable expandable storage isn't as affordable as we thought it was going to be, or that we were told. The Xbox expandable storage, the Xbox Series X will come with a port on the back that you could pop a brand new card into that doubles your storage space, doubles it. Okay.
Yeah, it's like imagine a PS2 memory card, but with a very, very long connector.
Yeah, and it's fairly low profile too. It goes on the back, you pop it in, it looks great. The total cost for this little memory card that adds an additional terabyte is $220. Yep.
Before $220 for what? Just a terabyte?
Oh, extra terabyte. Now,
1 terabyte.
Now, imagine this too. The Xboxes in Canada are $5.99. $5.99. The expandable memory in Canada is $2.99. That means that literally means that if I want to double my hard drive space, I have to pay another half for just the stick, the half of the console. I might as well pay the additional $79 and get a Series S.
Yeah, honestly, dude.
Like I'm serious. Like, it sounds ridiculous, but why would I? Why the heck? Now, I understand. Now, before I continue, because I've already had this comment told to me over and over and over and over again. SSDs are expensive. Yes. Okay, yes and no. I'll let you go before I get into it. Right. So when we look at the prices of these hard drives, right? Yes, if you were in Canada to go buy an NVMe drive with the similar stats, it would be a similar price. Probably. It'd be around the same price.
Yeah.
Fine. I understand that. But the thing is that these companies are buying these pieces of tech at wholesale prices, which they can cut costs down. That's one. Okay. They can reduce the cost of those sticks so that you don't have to, because it's only exclusive to Xbox. It's not exclusive to any PCs. You can reduce the cost down fairly. You're probably going to be taking a loss, but you're taking the loss on the console anyway. But you can't tell me that the NVMe drive within Xbox, because like I said, it's half the price is the hard drive, according to what they're saying. You can't tell me that the NVMe in the Xbox Series X is valued at $300, and literally the processor, the graphics card, the plastic, everything else is valued at an additional $300. There's no way.
No, there's no way. And to think about it in like recent terms, we both have SSDs in our rigs. Yeah. You have an M.2 and I have just a standard SSD. My SSD is a terabyte and I paid $80 for it. Enough. $80 for a terabyte SSD. I'm looking at M.2s right now. Here's one for $90. A terabyte, about a little faster than mine actually.
Actually, that's about mine. Mine was when transferred to Canadian dollars, mine was $129, which makes sense when you can $90 American. That almost converts to about $129 Canadian. So yeah, that's about the value.
Yeah. So you're telling me that the new Xbox, requires almost a little between 2 times, 3 times the price of what I paid for my PC SSD, which can play the games, like the load screens are like that. I have to pay that much for my console to get to that level instead of just putting a bigger drive in the system. Which, I work at a game store. I can probably do that. Well, we're going to get one in. We're going to open it up. I'm pretty sure we could just pop a bigger SSD in there.
Maybe. We'll have to see. We'll have to see how it's done inside. Now, PlayStation said that they're going with the M.2 drive. So great. Once again, thumbs up. That's not proprietary because Xbox's is proprietary. They partnered up with Seagate to make these things.
Yeah.
So you can only buy those things through Xbox. You can't buy them anywhere else at this point in time. However, PlayStation's like, yeah, you could use an M.2 drive, but the problem is that there's different speeds, and you need to have one with a specific speed. So that's the problem as well.
I think we talked about this,
Yep.
that the PS5's M.2 slot is so future-proof that nothing present day can really run on it. Now, what I'm not worried, but what I'm curious about is I want to get my hands on one of those memory cards, essentially, for the Xbox, so I can open it up. Because what I'm wondering is, I'm not sure if you've ever seen this, but for the Xbox 360, the original and the Slim, you know how they both had two different hard drives? Like the original had the big gray bulky one, and the Slims had the small black little shell you slick in the bottom.
Yep.
Well, if you open those up, they're just laptop hard drives, which are what the PS4 and the Xbox One use, just in a proprietary shell.
Right.
So what I'm wondering is, if we open up these shells, are they just regular SSDs? Because at work we buy in bulk third-party 360 shells to pop hard drives in.
Right.
So we can sell these hard drives for dirt cheap for the 360. So what I'm wondering is, our third party is going to be like, if we open this up and it's just a standard SSD, or if it's like an M.2 just in a shell,
Yeah.
could we potentially just buy the shells, pop our own in there, and then sell them for cheaper prices?
Probably. You
That's my question, but I highly doubt it, since they're partnering with Seagate, since they're doing a proprietary thing. But that's just me going back to the tinfoil hat Sega group.
Exactly. So there's a lot to talk about for this generation still. There's a whole bunch that needs to be discussed, and we'll probably be able to have to discuss that in future episodes, because we are running out of time.
Yes.
So thank you all so much for listening. We really appreciate you guys tuning in. If you guys want to listen to Wumpa Time anytime, you can check us out on all different kinds of podcast services. We have a link tree in the description below, but a few examples would be Spotify, SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, you name it. We're probably there. And we are very thankful that you guys are listening in, and if you guys want to give us 5 stars or whatever stars you want to give us, we really appreciate it. We love that you guys listen in on your daily day to commute. We try our best to be able to get these out as quick as possible every week, and sometimes our consistency is a little off due to personal issues, but we're going to try to be better for that when we later on in the future. We are still looking for carrier pigeons. They still haven't arrived.
Yeah, please.
They probably have. They probably are stuck at the border. We understand that. We gotta expedite these pigeons. We need these pigeons expedited. Am I missing anything, Shem?
No, I believe that's everything.
Okay.
Be sure to just pay attention to this channel when Crash 4 launches, because there's going to be a lot of stuff.
Lots of stuff coming. Anyways, thank you all so much for listening, and we'll see you guys in the next episode of Wumpa Time. Bye-bye.